But first, I'm going to break down this college football playoff expansion that we got as a news dump last week on Friday. Some thoughts on that and why I feel like there's some plagiarism going on right now in college football. A little bit of that. Bryce Young's going to join the show, the Heisman Trophy winner. We'll get into my top 10 as well. Some thoughts on a few of those teams, and then we'll get to some clapback. That's all coming up here on Breaking the Huddle. But first, we've got to get into this playoff expansion. Folks, you've wanted it, I've wanted it, and one of the reasons is because the 4-team playoff in its current model has been detrimental to the sport. So I've been arguing for a while for a certain change to the playoff, and it just so happens it looks real familiar. Check this out from last year. There's 2 versions of a playoff that I think would be best. 12 and 14 teams, not 8, not 10, and not 16. The reason I don't love 8 is because I think too much of the playoff would be taken up with automatic berths, and I don't like that. 10 is not good because it's essentially just an 8-team playoff with play-in games. I don't want just play-in games. 16 seems great, but then you don't have first-round byes, which means that we would be minimizing the effect of some great conference championship games because we know that those teams would both be in. So you need to incentivize the games at the top end of college football late in the season by offering byes in the first couple of rounds or the first round of the playoffs. So here's what it would look like. Let's start with a 12-team scenario just based on the rankings that we saw a night ago. Now, there's a couple of caveats here, folks, that I do want to get out of the way. I would honor conference champions more. So I would say that the 6 best champions in college football, the best conference champions, get automatic bursts into this playoff. And then we would go in the 12-team version with the 6 at-large teams after that. Now, we wouldn't just seed them and say you get home games if you're seeded based on the rankings. No. It would be the top 4 champions would get home games and byes into the first round. And then the next 2 champions and the 2 highest at-large teams would host those first-round games, and we would go from there. I think that would be very important because if you're offering a bye and a home playoff game in the first round for not only these first round games but also the second round games, what you would get is, let's say Alabama and Georgia are playing in the SEC championship game and everyone imagines like, well, they're both going to go to the playoff. You want to incentivize the winner of that game. You want them to play that game as hard as they possibly can, not just for pride. So what do? You attach a first round bye and a home field advantage playoff game to that winner. Now we've got something, and we've got 4 of those teams hosting in the second round as well. We've got to play on campus, folks. We've got to play on campus. We can't have these games in bowl games. We have too many neutral site games as it is. These need to be on campus to incentivize the late season games against very powerful opponents. So that's what a 12-team playoff would look like. Well. Looky what we have here. Folks, it was almost verbatim what the College Football Playoff Board of Directors gave us. I mean, almost verbatim. And for a bunch of, chancellors and presidents, it looks an awful lot like plagiarizing. If you know what I mean. I don't care. Listen, I don't need credit. They aren't going to go on campus for that second round like I was arguing for. I still think that would be the best model, but they're all caught up in trying to save the bowl system and save those bowls. Those are too entrenched in college football. So the second round is likely going to be at bowl sites so that we can retain these 6 major bowls that will kind of house, if you will, these playoff games. Listen, a couple of reactions after watching that and what we're seeing here in the direction of the playoff for college football. First and foremost, apparently I always wear blue. Okay, so that's just the thing, and it happens, and what can I say? My eyes are blue, and my wife likes it. 2, they plagiarized me. There is not a doubt in my mind that they were watching Breaking the Huddle last year, and they were like, hey, this whippersnapper's got something. Which I don't care, because, by the way, I had these conversations with all sorts of people, and I wasn't the only one to have this idea, certainly, but I'm glad that they got to this point. Now let's get to the actual reactions of what we're about to get here in the near future, hopefully, in college football. First and foremost, folks, I will argue until I'm blue in the face that the 4-team playoff has been detrimental to the sport, okay? Because we have essentially redefined success as only to do with the playoff. Well, that's too few teams. In fact, there's only been 13 teams that have made the college football playoff in its history. That's only 10% of college football. That's not enough. If we would have had this 12-team model retroactively over the course of the last 8 seasons, let's say, during the playoff era, we would have had 41 total teams, which is an additional 28 programs that could have had a clear definition of success in order to help their recruiting. Why is that needed? Because recruiting is the lifeblood of college football, right? If you look at where all the top-end talent has gone and where it's consolidated to, it's the exact schools that have won national championships. And they're still going to be great. There's no doubt. But right now, Alabama has had 40 5-star recruits in the last 8 years. The 6th place team on the 5-star recruit leaderboard, Texas A&M with 19. That's way too much of a separation. And so if we can separate out some of the talent and not get them consolidated in just to a few programs, I think that we can eventually get to a place where college football will have more parity. This 12-team playoff, I think, will be good for college football, and hopefully soon. I think that it needs to be 2024, not 2026. But that's because we need to start unwinding this consolidation of talent as fast as we possibly can to achieve more parity and more interest in the sport overall. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here. College football on Fox.